Hi, my name is Jyoti Bharadwaj. I'm the founder of TFIT. Thank you so much for having me here. Some of you may have seen me on Shark Tank, but before I come to that, I want to know how many introverts are there in this house. That's 20. Please come on, like this is the time to raise your hand. Okay, so you know what are the 3, 4 most difficult things for introverts to do? Is to be on a stage, inside a red dot, with a spotlight on your face and a mic in your hand standing. But that's a story for another day. Today I'll take you back to a little bit of how I started up and a little bit of what I learned about life and about starting up while running my own business. I'm not a spring chicken. I'm not 21, graduated from college and starting up. I have had a full career before this. I was the business head of housing.com. Before that, I ran a Kalari-funded startup called Oven Fresh, based out of Bangalore. Before that, I graduated from Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. But very early on in my life, I understood one thing about myself, which is that I do not enjoy working in limited roles in large corporations or large organizations. That was my first, that was my first role outside of engineering college. In a big company, in a role, I worked there for 2 years. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't enjoy it. So that's the first thing I kind of learned about myself, that I need to work on projects where my impact is visible, where it's visible to me what I'm doing, what the end result is. After that is when I did my MBA and started my startup journey in a sense. So since then, I have not worked in big MNCs despite having offers in consulting, in industry. I have chosen to work with startups. My last stint was with housing.com way back in 2015 to 2019. After having worked with 2 startups, leading revenue teams, building profitably, not so much with housing, but the previous one, there was nothing exciting to look forward to in life. Like maybe middle-age crisis is what people call it. I had no more student loans. I had paid it off. I had a nice house in Bombay. What next do you do? I was like, is this how it is going to turn out? Is this what I'm going to continue to do? And in the middle of all of this, I did happen to get a chance to travel to Japan quite a few times. And there I understood about this entire category of unsweetened beverages. So Japan as a country is one of the very few countries left on the planet now who are not, like the people are not sugar obsessed. For every product or every category of product, you will find 2x number of products that are unsweetened, that are made with traditional Japanese herbs, medicines, that have very light palate and good for you. They are not less bad for you, so the sugar is not replaced with, let's say, erythritol or aspartame or something. There is no sugar. So the idea that every time you're thirsty, you need something sweet is very recent. It has come to us in the last 40, 50 years since high fructose corn syrup was discovered, invented very cheaply, and therefore it was being pushed into everything it could possibly be pushed into. And this seed was there in my mind when I came back to India. And I was like, abhi nahi to kabhi nahi. So I had earned some money by that time. I decided to back myself. I didn't seek any investor. I mean, that's the play that we see today, that you have an idea, you raise money, then you kind of start building. That wasn't the thought behind TFIT. I wanted to build it out with my own savings. We'll see how it goes. And that's how the journey started. Few things I learned along the way. One is that the expectation from the entrepreneur to know everything is very misleading, and it couldn't be further from the truth. So if you think if you are starting out something, you need to have a deep industry knowledge, you do not. I knew nothing about beverages when I started out. Neither did, unlike Namya Food founder here, I knew nothing about Ayurveda as well. It didn't run in my family. I'm a first-generation entrepreneur. But you need to be able to find people to believe in your vision. You need to be able to pitch to them with the same conviction with which you have started your journey. And you will get rejected, left, right, center. People will ridicule you, they will diss you, they will not give you the time of the day. I remember when I was starting out and I needed somebody to work on TFIT's formulation. I didn't know how to, but LinkedIn came to my rescue. I shortlisted a lot of the leading Ayurveda product developers with over 15 years of experience in Mumbai. I found a very senior gentleman whose office was in Kandivali, and I was in Navi Mumbai, and that travel time is 2.5 hours one way. I did that. I did that for a whole month. I went to his office back and forth until he agreed to at least give me the time of his day and listen to what it is that I was looking to build. But once he heard the idea that we want to transform how Indians consume their beverages, and it is about time that a responsible beverage brand comes to the fore and builds ethically brewed, like creates ethically brewed beverages, doesn't hide behind false marketing. And so he liked the idea of the impact that something like this could have, and he came on board. And that was my first win after good 3-4 months of running around to find out who is it that will work on the project with you. So that's the first thing that I learned about myself and about entrepreneurs and founders in general, that you don't need to know all the answers, but you need to be able to find the right set of minds who are way smarter than you and somehow convince them to solve this with you, for you. So that was my first victory. The second thing I learned about brand building, I started from a place that this is something I want to do, but if you see me today, it's because I built my brand in a niche. If I had built this in a main category, like a juice category, if I was doing mango juices, for example, or if I was doing a cola brand, a slightly better for you cola, you wouldn't see me here, because that's a very middle ground to play in, right? Which means everybody is fighting to get the same customers, which means your marketing dollars will never be enough if you're a person with 30 lakh or 20 lakh of your savings that you put in the business. So it is incredibly important to, irrespective of what the product you're building, is to first understand what niche it is that you're catering to. Because even legacy players, like the big guys, the Cokes, the Pepsis, the fruit juices, the real, everybody is fighting for the middle ground, right? Because that's where the maximization of the pie is possible. But when you're starting out, it's incredibly important, at least that's how I've come to understand, is to find a niche which is not very crowded, which is where you can create the best damn product that you can, and which is where you develop customer loyalty, that people will vouch for you in that niche, that TFIT makes the best unsweetened beverages. And once you have cemented your position there, then you can grow in concentric circles, then you can attack adjacent niches, you can have, you can target the larger category. But unless you have a clear positioning in a niche, it's very difficult to build a brand in India with limited funds. So if your funds are limited, please do find a niche that you will be targeting. That's the second thing I learned. Another thing I'm here to tell you, that it is not as glamorous as it looks. Like you see Shark Tank appearance, there's so much grind that goes behind it, that 9 days out of 10, you are just struggling to make ends meet. You're thinking, where will I pay them salaries? And especially when you're bootstrapped and you're first generation, you don't have like any industrial family you belong to or any other kind of source of income that will fuel this business. You are literally fueling it from your savings account, right? So 9 days out of 10, you're just struggling to make ends meet. But what that allows you to do is stay razor and laser focused on only the things that are critical to the survival of your business. So, for example, you won't spend like 10 lakh on a branding exercise. You won't. You will interview 20, 30 people and find that really bright kid who will do it for 10,000 rupees. So you will be frugal, you will be focused, and you will know exactly what it takes to keep your business alive and profitable. So even if you have a ton of funds at your disposal, if you're planning to start out, my suggestion is stay bootstrapped and just make it work for a couple of years. There are phenomenal things you will learn about your own business. You will learn where to save costs. You will know the exact cost structure of the product that you're making. You will know where you're making the money, and therefore you will be able to double down on it. So that's another thing I learned. That is grind. It's very difficult, but it teaches you a lot about the fundamentals of the business. So if I had raised, for example, funding on day one, I would be all over the place. I would try so many different things. I wouldn't know what is working, what is not. And the complete focus on the fundamentals of the business would be missing. So that's another thing I learned. The next thing that you do not learn in business school, this is a great business school. You will learn all the, financial modeling, you will learn Kotler's marketing and all of that, but you don't learn about relationships, which is the single most critical thing that works in business. If you are in the market trying to grow your business, if you don't have money in your pocket, the only thing that works is relationships. So being humble, not having a chip on your shoulder that, I come from so-and-so business school and I'm starting out, so I deserve a certain kind of red carpet welcome. I think if you put all of that aside, I think it's a great learning exercise to understand what are the real levers of a business, right? Funding is one, marketing is another. Relationships is a whole different lever that is way more powerful than any of these. But that is not taught in a very structured way. But do focus, like you are at a stage where you will go out in the market. Some of you will start up. In Indian business scenario, relationships trumps everything. So if the other person cannot tolerate you, he doesn't enjoy your company, he cannot have a cup of tea with you, he will not do business with you. It is as simple as that. So be likable, be humble, be nice, and call up people even when there's no work, right? I mean, somewhere there was an interview I recently gave about, in India, if you're calling people only for work, okay, it is not a feature, it is a bug. In US, if you do that, you're considered professional. But in India, if you do that, you're considered, jab kaam padta hai, tab yaad aata hai, So it's not a feature, it's a bug. So relationships are paramount. And the fourth and the last thing that I don't know how much time I have left, but the last thing that I would want to take up is the least glamorous aspect of starting up. It is just staying alive. Just staying alive long enough for things to turn around. It is highly underrated. People think that every day has to be like like a phenomenal day with stuff in PR, and you have to be in the media, you have to have phenomenal sales. That is not true. A lot of times, if you have a fundamentally sound business model, if you've created products that are world class, if you have a clear TG in your mind, still there is no traction coming, sometimes it's just timing, right? So if you're not making massive losses, if at unit level you're not making any losses, which is my fundamental truth, that I will not sell a single bottle of T-Fit at a loss. I see so many startups, for every 100 rupees in revenue, they're spending 300 rupees in marketing. So that's not the model I understand. I understand the model of at unit level, if I'm not making a loss and acquiring a customer, I will sell that product. So if you're not making losses, if you are fundamentally sound in all your metrics, then just keep working, keep trying different things. If, for example, B2C is not taking off, right? Try B2B, try institutional, try airlines. Just fight in different areas until you find a good product market fit, right? And the product market fit is sometimes not the most visible market. So we usually think whatever market is most visible. So D2C means everybody has to do their own website, everybody has to do performance marketing, everybody has to acquire the same customers, while some really smart brand has skipped all of this and just gone to institutional, is there in all the corporates, is there in all the airlines, is there in all the hospitals, and is making a killing there, and without a sound. So sometimes we kind of pay attention to the places that are the most noisy, while completely overlooking things that could be the most interesting for our business. So coming back, kind of circling back to perseverance. A lot of times we just get bored. The kind of growth we had imagined on day one is not coming. A lot of times we think, we could have earned a lot more money while we were in our jobs, and maybe I made a bad decision. So I feel most of us quit there. They don't kind of play it long enough for things to really turn. So play a long game as opposed to a short game. A lot of startups, again, today you will see are in the 4 to 5 year exit frame of mind, right? So if you have that short time frame, you will compromise. Like the nature of the problem statement you have defined will make sure that you will compromise on the quality of your product, you will compromise on customer experience, you will compromise on repeats, you will not be able to drive repeats because all you're focusing right now is on how to acquire the next customer. So for that, you're willing to burn money, right? And if you've fundamentally not worked on your product because of your short-term view of things, then that person is never going to come back and buy the product again. So work on your product, work on the differentiator of the product, and really until it is the best version that you can do. People keep saying, you know, launch version 1.0, however it is. That's not true. Launch version 1.0, however it is, but you should be proud of it, that that's the best I did at that time, and then launch it. Don't launch a shoddy product and back it by marketing. No amount of marketing can save a bad product. So again, coming back to the fundamental, work on your product. Marketing is secondary. Work on customer service, because again, in a short-term view of things, you don't care about customers. You are not focusing on repeats. You're just thinking of how to drive the top line. But how we have worked, I at least have first 500, 600 customers on my phone. I still talk to them. Like if I'm launching a new product, the first set of samples go to them. They are the loyalists who will vociferously defend your brand on any platform. So you see the amount of love we get after Shark Tank. Like it's very humbling to see. At the same time, it's also earned from way before Shark Tank, right? Like we've been sharing our journey for like 2 years now on every platform. People vouch for the kind of quality of products we make, and our repeats show that because we have a long-term view of things. So that's my essentially last suggestion for those that are starting out. It is very tempting to have a short-term view of things, but if you have to build a large business, the next HUL, the next PNG, you have to have a long-term view of things, and only then you will create products, you will create brands that are world-class, that are made in India, that are not just for sale in the next 3, 4 years or for acquisition. And me, who's on the right side of 35, first-generation entrepreneur with 2 children, if I could do this, that I am at this stage today talking to you, I have 1,000,000 miles to go. But here and now, I'm in front of you. If this is possible, anything is possible. So if any of you all want to start, especially the ladies, there is like, the sky is the limit for you. You right now have no major obligations. And this is a great time for you to start up, right? Somebody at my life stage can also build a brand. At your life stage, you can do anything. So like I said, anything is possible. And with that note, I'll say thank you and bye-bye.